London calling, YouTube, London calling, everyone. And once again, please welcome our guests, The Bun.
Hello, everybody.
And Fratis.
Good evening.
And Milan.
Screams, and then silence.
I agree. And Pinge.
Hey, like Swedish, hello.
You have a very fun name to say. Pinge.
Pinge.
You should be a magician. Like the wondrous, the marvelous Pinge.
It sounds like a racial slur against penguins or something. It's like a homophobic slur against penguins.
What?
No Pinge, man. No Pinge.
Well, we have it here first, folks. Pinge music is a gay penguin.
No. It's like, this is what, like, straight penguins yell at that one, overly feminine penguin. Hey, Pinge! That's the way you say it, Alex. You should be ashamed of yourself, you bastard.
My hate speech against the gay penguins, I shall be. Yes. Right. In any case, I don't think that gay penguins would stick with just the black and white look. I think maybe those ones with the bright blue feet. But anyway, stereotyping LGBTQ people, even though I am one. Right. So, anyway. So, if listeners who can remember back a few weeks on our Oscars special, we may not have been terribly nice about an actor by the name of Jarod Letto. I'm scared to say his name in case I might summon him. And basically, his defense of his portrayal, for want of a better term, of a transgender woman in what some people might call a film, Dallas blah blah blah, basically say that him, a cisgendered man, playing a trans person opens up the gates for it to go the other way, and broaden the horizons of trans actors. Even though the director of Dallas blah blah blah, when asked why didn't you hire a trans actor to play a trans character, said, "Oh, are there any?" Apparently unaware that there's such a thing called Google, and he might have had to spend a whole minute of his life finding out if there are trans actors. It's been pointed out in an article linked in the description that this defense, although it has an internal logic, doesn't really work in the full social context for reasons that should be pretty obvious. In any case, I've waffled on for 3 minutes, so alphabetical again, I will hand you guys over to The Bun.
Oh boy, this bastard. Alright.
This is going to be
let's
good.
Just admit that there's some problems here, and let's address them. The biggest one, issues of sexuality and issues of gender are two very different things. Despite the fact that the initialism LGBTQIAP includes intersex and transgender titles, that does not mean the two issues can be equated to being equals. They just can't. It doesn't work. Think of it this way. A homosexual person will never experience gender dysphoria. They will never look in the mirror and wonder what in the world they identify as in the scheme of their sexual preference. Not only this, but it's much easier for a gay person to pass as straight. They could easily just keep their sexuality to themselves and not have to deal with judgment and hatred from society. A trans person, not happening. Especially not a trans woman. Because of the sexism in society, trans women not only have to face transphobia, but also trans misogyny, because, it's obviously just downright sinful to, quote-unquote, give up your manhood. The fact of the matter is that no matter what, Jarod Letto is never going to understand what a trans woman goes through, and neither is the drag queen Rayon character that he plays, because at the end of the day, Jarod is a straight, cisgender man, and a drag queen can easily take off her makeup, ditch the wig, and go from Sharon to Steven all over again, and male pronouns go back to their regular usage, and they, at the end of the day, still have cis privilege. So no, it's not the same. Having straight people play gay characters and vice versa is not the same as a trans woman being played by a cisgender man. because a transgender woman is not a man. She's not male. She is female. And she may or may not have a penis. And also, there are so many people who get undermined in the acting business. We have black women and Asian women being cast as stereotypical roles as the sassy black friend and the math geek, and we have characters like Katniss, who's meant to be olive-skinned and is played by a white woman. Hollywood is the most discriminatory thing on the planet, and expecting trans women to take yet another back seat is disgusting and gives into trans invisibility as well as cis and heteronormativity that litters the media. So here's an idea. Let's cast trans women for everything. Everything. Black Widow, trans woman. Wonder Woman, trans woman. Nicki Minaj biographical film, trans woman. I need trans women everywhere. I need Laverne Cox sitting on a throne of the corpses of cisgender directors who have excluded trans women while sipping the blood of Jarod Letto from a sacred goblet as she pets her pet dragon.
Woo! Aha. And I will also comment on this article and the fact that they managed to use the correct pronouns, something which the script, if the film even had one, completely failed to do. And last time we spoke, we made the comparison of this is more like if Jarod Leto had put boot polish on his face to appear in 12 Years a Slave and won an Oscar for his moving portrayal of a black person. And I will say, speaking as, if we were going by the Kinsey test, or Kinsey, what's it called, the Kinsey scale, by Kinsey logic, which unfortunately still influences people, because I'm a bisexual man, I'm halfway to being a woman. And this is why people to this day want to go back in time and kill Kinsey. I will also say, I understand gender expression because I'm a bit of a drag queen myself. I have an alter ego, another character, an extension of myself, and gender expression is where I would place drag queen. Don't know if that comes under genderqueer or not, but gender expression, gender identity, sexuality, not, and also you will meet bisexuals who never cross-dress. And now, Fratis, I understand that you want to defend this quote-unquote film and Jarod Leto.
I actually think quote-unquote film is quite an insult for the form of art and what it was actually talking about. It was talking about a real problem that really existed for a very, very long time in America, still exists to this very day, and is highly underrepresented in the States. A problem that is very current in politics. Just look at the TIPP treaties, which actually has, like, the whole treaty is about this subject pretty much. Last year there was 75,000 people who died from medication taken from other countries into the Americas illegally. So very, very current movie. AIDS is still a huge problem. There was just the yearly AIDS charity event run by DevShell 2. Which ran up to a couple of $1,000 again.
8,000 this year.
I didn't pay too much attention. I was very busy that weekend.
Okay.
But yeah, I know he ran a couple of $1,000, and he's raised awareness a lot. So it's a very current movie with a very important topic. So calling it a quote unquote movie or saying it's whatever is, I think, a little bit insulting. And then we get into the whole Jarod Leto situation. I mean, I'm just going to state it this way. If transgender woman can't be played by a man, does that mean all the movies, I mean, Alex will know some of these, all the old movies where men play women are also not okay? Would you all class that under that too? While we're staying down that logic, can I feel offended when a gay man plays a straight man in a movie picking up women? Do I get that too, or is my cis white privilege in the way of that?
Well, I think the second part of that's the false equivalency.
I know it's a false equivalency. I'm just trying to point out that the logic of the way it's represented in media representation of the LGBTQ movement, and the movement name says it itself, lumps these subjects together. So in the broad collective consciousness of the few people who actually even know about the subject, let's not assume that everybody in America even gives a shit, because they don't. I mean, that's already a step forwards. He knows the movement exists. Go to Washington and go talk to Congress about that and see how funny that is. Because I'm going to bet you at least 80% of the old white men, by the way, worse than Hollywood, don't even know the thing LGBTQ. They'd probably look at you very confused and ask you what drugs you're taking. If they don't send you straight to a priest to, repair you. So let's not go down that way. And I mean, it's acting, understanding a character. I mean, does a guy who plays a murderer have to understand how a murderer thinks? Because if he can, I would like to send him to the next psychological institute to go and help people there. Because mass murder is actually a very complex topic. Or, I don't know, if he plays a pedophile, does he need to understand how a pedophile thinks and feels exactly?
I'm going to say it does, as Milan says, it does help, but it's part of method acting. And yes, I think even if you're playing Hitler, I think when Bruno Ganz was playing Hitler in Downfall, when he was acting, he thought as Hitler thought, he believed what Hitler believed, and he would justify it to himself to be completely in character, and actors manage it. Admittedly, the first ever actor to play Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde on stage was questioned by police in relation to the Jack the Ripper inquiry. Questioned, but he didn't do it. I don't think it's ever actually... and actually all sorts of people get into the minds of killers and paedophiles.
Yeah, but the question
is
why can't a man get into the thoughts of a transgendered woman? That's my question at that point.
Well,
I mean,
it's not the fact that it's a bad thing. It's just it's not the problem with a straight man try to act like a to act like a not exactly binary woman. It's that he did it shittily.
He did it well enough to get a bloody Oscar
and it was
for
also the script itself was very offensive. They didn't keep to the pronouns. They represented a character that was supposed to be a trans woman as a drag queen, which right there is a red flag, because those are two very different things.
The thing is, he did it well enough to win an Oscar and a dozen other awards. And, I mean, you can think whatever you want about the awards ceremonies or the people voting for them, but he won one. Artistically, you can think whatever you want. I will disagree with you vehemently.
If I could... Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the articles, which I know that you haven't seen, compared this with Manny, the portrayal of a black character in the film Gone with the Wind, and how progressive that looked at the time, and how embarrassing it is when you look back, and basically saying people will look back at the portrayal of a trans character in Dallas Buyers Club and think, oh my god, people once thought this was a good thing.
I don't know that. I mean, I think that's for posterity to decide, not us. I mean, yes, I'm of a different opinion than most people here, and I'm fully aware of that. But I don't think it's as terrible as you portray it. I think there's been a lot worse.
Like, I understand where you're coming from the perspective of it actually covering a really recent social issue. And I think that, yeah, that's really important, and we need to be covering that more because it's something that isn't talked about much. And I wish that it was. So I agree with you. It was important in that aspect. But, like, I mean, it's just, you can still like something and still understand the problematic aspects of it. And, like, for example, I'll watch Supernatural, but I still understand that it's sexist and is filled with white cisgender man pain. But it's, like, at the end of the day, I think that saying that it's not offensive, maybe to somebody who is cisgender, no, it's not gonna be. Especially if you don't have a lot of experience with transgender women and don't understand them to a T. But the fact of the matter is there are actual trans women that have talked about this, and they've been extremely offended. And by saying, oh, this movie isn't offensive, that's really just invalidating everything they said as people whom that role was supposed to represent.
Milan, you want to respond?
Hello? Yeah, we're ready to go?
We are recording, yes.
Okay. You see, the problem is, like, I know what you're trying to say, but imagine if, Bun brought up the, Gone with the Wind. I mean, imagine, like, back then, black folk weren't really, admitted to exist, and any sort of black man depicted on film was a white guy with, black shoe polish. And you see a black fella in the movies. Golly wowzers, this is so progressive. But how do they act? They act essentially exactly like the minstrel show. The only change is that they're actual black people acting like how the white man portray them while they have fucking shoe polish.
Yeah.
I mean, it's and the Oscars, that whole, they won an Oscar, thus, it negates all your opinions. Like, it's like the Oscars, partly it's mostly just a bunch, I'm going to be crude here and say it's a giant circle jerk of profound Hollywood liberals saying how great we are. Oh, how wonderful and progressive we are. Yeah, let me, it's just a bunch of that. And, some movies deserve those Oscars, others don't. It's really just a giant show and a shill. But you can't just ignore the genuine grievances an actual, trans woman has with the material and the real actual problems that the film has. And, yeah, it could have been done better. I'm sure you like the film. I'm sure it brings up some really genuine, really important topics. But that's the thing. The main focus, the main heart of this film, and the main topic it's supposed to be talking about, and mainly focused around, is a transgendered woman. And if that one thing, if this core of the film doesn't work or portrayed in a way that is offensive, then its whole message, it's a trans woman, it falls to pieces. And I understand what you're trying to say, like, if a straight guy can't play a, cis, transgender woman, but, I'm sure a straight guy can pull that off, but a good actor, but, that's the thing. He didn't do it properly.
Yeah.
He wasn't, I'm nearly done.
Yeah.
I'm nearly done.
Okay.
He wasn't playing a transgendered woman. He was just playing, like, hey, mammy, I'm gonna eat me some watermelon.
Okay. Fratis, your response.
Okay, 3 questions. 1, would the movie be better if you used the same script and a transgendered woman would play Rayon? I don't think so. It's still the same bloody script. Most actors. Let me finish, please. Most actors don't get a big say on the script. It's eat it or die. Eat it or don't have a job. We don't fucking care. There's 10 people waiting outside for your job. And it is like that in Hollywood. Let's not even discuss that, because there is 10 people waiting outside wanting to be in a movie. Question 2 is, was the movie really about a transgender person, or was it about getting medication and the economics behind that medication? That's my question, because I thought it was actually more about the whole subject.
Well,
and then there was a second subplot with, the transgender story.
Well, I would actually answer that question by saying that's part of the problem. Because, apart from the fact that the guy really, I don't think, came across that well. He came across as a black marketeer, as a very cynical profiteer. And I would also point out, this was supposed to be an HIV and AIDS film that made the lead character straight when, if it were really based on the real story, he would have been bi. And then marginalized and stereotyped the LGBT community by embodying the all-in-one made-up character. So the fact that, indeed, Rayon isn't the main character and is made up. Your other point, well, I would like to think that a trans actor would have thrown the script in the face of the dickhead who wrote it. But my main point would be, surely a film about HIV and AIDS issues, especially in the 80s, that failed that hard in its representation of the LGBT community has completely failed, because how do you do that important element of the whole story that badly?
Once again, I'm going to have to correct you. There was plenty of actually purely straight patients within the 80s. I mean, yes, it was an illness that was mainly within the gay community, but there was actually quite a few, about 5 to 10% of the people were actually straight. This is well known.
Who was blamed?
These were mainly people who were traveling a lot and are actually part of the problem. The situation with AIDS is a very complex topic, and I don't think saying it was only gay people in the 80s.
I didn't say that.
I know you didn't say that. I'm just saying people do say this. It was only gay people in the 80s. Doesn't help.
Indeed, that's a stigma. But the fact that stigma existed is part of my problem. Whether it's a gay disease, men made it together, or it's those bisexuals getting it from men and then going home to their wives, they caused the problem. That's stigma, and stigma is a big part of the HIV and AIDS story. I think I certainly would be the last person to say it's a gay disease.
But then your argument falls apart that the main character has to be at least bisexual.
Well, no, he was in real life.
Yes, he was in real life.
But then why? But okay, that's a very significant part of it, and also considering that heteronormativity is very common in the media, to rewrite a character that was bisexual and would be arguably inspiring for other bisexual people and actually give them representation is pretty shitty.
I'm just going to say mass appeal.
Sexual whitewashing.
Yeah, mass appeal. Once again.
If you've got to whitewash a story that much, what integrity do you have in saying this quote unquote true story?
Mass appeal. Like, that's the thing. I mean, if you're gonna make a movie about a topic that has to do with these people, why? I mean, what do you mean, mass mark? What? I don't understand you. If you're going to make a movie about the topic...
At the end of the day, no matter what topic you want to do as an artist, I'm going to say artists in general because it's not just things, you're going to have to compromise. I mean, few artists get through with 100% their vision. It just doesn't work that way usually. Unless you're a very established artist or have buns of steel.
But even in the terms of compromise, nobody was asking for that compromise. It's just downright bigotry, and I'll even let Jarod Letto go on this one. But from the guy who directed it, saying that there's no trans actors is completely contributing to trans invisibility, and then on top of that making a poorly depicted trans character is still shitty.
Yeah, can I just quickly leap in there and say, if he claimed he didn't even know there were trans actors, that means he didn't even audition them, and then say, as it happened, I thought this cisgendered person happened to be the best actor, but he never even held auditions that included trans actors.
But look, I'm gonna say this. I'm sure I understand what you're coming through. I'm sure this director had the best of intentions, but what we're trying to say is that he came at it from a place of extraordinary ignorance, and like I'm sure there's really great parts. I'm sure this film has nice parts, seen from your perspective, but for it. You got to admit that it was handled. It's not a perfect film by any stretch of the imagination. And saying that mass appeal, no one was actually asking for this film. I mean, well, of course, the transgender community, but in the larger scale. No, there wasn't a slew of white, straight, men and women going, I demand a soul-wrenching tale about the struggle of...
That's not...
Okay, Milan, I think Pinge's been waiting for 10 minutes for us to get to him. Hey, Pinge, your opinion on this issue.
I was just listening, and that's the whole thing with the movie.
Sorry,
It's like, first of all, it's like, if you have a trans person, I actually don't think that person have to be portrayed by a trans person at all. But that if it is not a trans person, then the straight person actually have to be like do the roles so good that the trans persons actually think, that he portrays us in a good light and in a good way. That is the main thing, because acting is acting. You actually don't. If you do a movie about dancers, you don't actually have to dance, because if you can portray the dance good, so people think that you are the best dancer in the world, then you are a good actor. But in this movie, it actually seems like no, he didn't. So that's the wrong person for the wrong. Yeah, it was the wrong person. And also when we talk about mass thinking, no one wanted this movie. Actually, if you're going to sell in a film in Hollywood, you have a problem. Okay, I want a trans movie with trans people, blah blah. And then you go to the film companies, and they just want to, and you want a trans person in some leading roles, or no, we can't do that. And then you say, but we can make another actor that are famous and so on. And then, okay, then we might do it. So it's like a big compromise, and that's what we get, sadly.
Exactly. That's exactly what we get. I mean, when you go, like, even if you want to produce something else, like, let's say, a comic or music or something, you go to a company and you have to pick what's called a pitch meeting, which means you pitch your idea to the company, and they then go, we like it, or if you change this and this, we will take it, and usually it is the second.
But then we come to But Ban, the thing, Ban, you have that's the thing with this movie. The trans community and everybody else that actually think they can use this movie to actually say this is wrong because of that, not because he was the baddest actor in the world and he was not a trans person, but because he portrayed the trans community bad. And that's the most important. So you can also always use this movie, and so that is the most important thing, not actually if the movie was good or bad, because Hollywood always will do bad movies. So this conversation is wonderful, because now you have a chance to actually say something good about a bad movie and come forward with something that actually are interesting and actually are true.
I'd also like to throw out there, in the last show I made mention of the film The Crying Game, which is from, I think, 1992.
Yeah.
And the very fact, because that was a trans woman character who wasn't stereotypical and also wasn't the victim of the film. She owned her situation. She was kind of a kick-ass character. And I know that was basically a British indie film that ended up getting noticed.
Yeah.
But at the same time, 22 years... hang on. Sorry, I can't do maths. However many years have gone by since then. And you would have thought, couldn't they take a nod? Couldn't they check that actually trans people have already been represented better than this?
Yeah, true. True. Sadly true. But
well, I think that we got a hell of a lot of heated discussion out of that one. So, good night from Bun.
Good night.
Good night from Fratis.
Good night.
And Milan.
Sorry, I talk too much.
Don't worry. I think we all do. Apart from Pinge. But anyway, we're here from Pinge now. Good night from Pinge.
Good night.
Good night, Internet. Good night, everyone.